No, it's going to be...
All right. Boy, I sure hope this thing is looking at what it's not showing up on the TV behind me, huh?
Nope.
Okay. I keep in this little tin my library of bezel strips. I have different bezel strips. Tasman, will you run over and grab the 26 gauge bezel? It'll be labeled. This is just my plain bezel, right? But I keep one for every bezel, and I keep all sizes in here. This particular stone, the top is different heights all the way around, so that's challenging. I got to choose the tallest one to make sure that I got enough. What I'll do is I'll come in and carve away what. Get my trusty fingers here. Cut a good 90-degree cut. A good 90-degree cut. There we go. Okay, with my stone on a flat, even, smooth surface, and my bezel on a flat, even, smooth surface, I'm going to choose the longest, straightest part of the stone, right? I'm not going to choose right here. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Not up here at the curve. The longest, straightest part. And then I move that bezel around the table. I'm kind of pulling it around my stone. Pour it close to the... That's super. Everything kind of stayed flat on the table. If you're holding it in your hand and wrapping it around, you're kind of thumbing that thing against the stone, and you take those walls, because we're building a little fence, and you give them an inward cant. And when you give them that inward cant, either one side or both sides, etc., and we make the bezel and we solder it closed, it might fit over the stone, and the stone drops, you know, like inside, it's like a nice snug fit. But once I set that bezel to a backplate and I try to drop the stone in, it doesn't drop in, okay? Because the top of that bezel is smaller than the bottom, right? So I found that it's really easy if you just keep everything flat on the table as you're doing this. It's easier to keep those sort of vertical walls. I notice where the overlap is. Now these fine tip Sharpies, they start to dry out as soon as you give them a dirty look, so just beware. Where that mark of that Sharpie is, I'm going to cut maybe a little bit on the outside, so I got a little extra room. Now with that smaller piece, I can manipulate it around my stone, and I see I've got a little overlap, that little tiny overlap that I have, right? I'm going to start giving it a haircut. Just the tiniest bit. I'm going to check it. Still too long. Right about there. Where it doesn't quite lay like this, it kind of lays like this. Does that make sense? Not a ton of overlap, just the corners catch, if that makes sense. Okay? Tasman, I'm gonna go solder this. Would you grab me a sanding disc off of my desk? Okay, now I'm gonna fidget with it and manipulate it until those two ends butt right up against each other. Bingo bango, a light tight seam. See what I'm talking about? Light tight seam. Even Steven. I'm gonna kind of give it a little squish on the desk so that those two sides lay flat together. Now with smaller bezel or bezel that's been kind of manipulated a lot and it's got a little bit of a twist to it, sometimes I got to make sure that those two sides are running flush with each other. I don't know the words for it right now. It's early, guys. I might grab some flat-jawed pliers and grab them both, pinch over that joint and kind of twist it this way and that way, and that brings them both into the same plane. Does that make sense? That's just a little manipulation trick. It's all about manipulating. So I'm going to take these over here. Scoot, scoot, scoot. I'm gonna lay it on my solderite board. This is how I do a bezel. There's a million ways to do it. You'll see online and everywhere else. This is how I do it. I'm gonna grab hard solder. I'm gonna grab my solder cutters. I'm gonna look inside for all the pieces of solder stuck in there and judge everyone. Critical. Get a good tweezer. These will do. One piece of solder is enough, but I'm superstitious, so I'll put 2. And I'll lay them right over the joint. This is a small job, so I'm going to use a small torch tip. I'm going to get a 0. I'm going to warm it. And I'm going to keep that flame right there across that joint, left, right, and I'm going to flow that solder. Boom. Easy peasy. So, I like to stand my bezels up like that, right? If it's a thinner bezel, doesn't really have the footprint to stand up like that, you can lean it against a crosslock tweezer like this. I would not, it'd be hot, don't want to touch it, ever grab a bezel with a tweezer and try to solder it like this, for reasons. One, that crosslock's now putting pressure on that bezel and can kind of twist it and throw it out of whack. Two, that crosslock tweezer is also going to act as a heat sink, so that solder might flow funky because it's pulling heat out of the metal. Some people will lay their bezels down like this and just put a piece of solder right here at the base, and when they warm it up, that solder will flow up the line. I've not had a great deal of luck with it, so I just set it up like this. Make sense? Questions, anybody? Can I stamp silver before I turn it into a bezel? Yeah, you can stamp silver before you turn it into a bezel. However, the thickness of your metal will sort of dictate how good your stamps look. And typically your bezel is 28 or 26 gauge. 26 gauge if you're fancy. And, oh, perfect, thank you. And I don't stamp 28 gauge because it just doesn't look good. The thickness of the metal, you need thicker metal to show off the texture of your stamp. Is there a chuck? It's right over there. Thank you. I got a little sanding disc here. I got my safety glasses on for safety. Stop laughing. Abrasives on the bottom of that disc. Now you guys can see, right? Before I do anything with this piece, I'm gonna make that seam perfect. So I'm just gonna, with it on the bottom, just brushy, brushy, brushy. Take the time to do this now, right? Don't try to do it later when it's got 3 other things attached to it. Every component that you craft, you stop and craft perfectly before you move on to the next step. If I can see your seams in your pieces, I'm gonna give you a hard time. Tasman,
Yes.
220 grit sandpaper, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could you use this area on the boat underneath when you're doing that usually?
I mean, this is the angle for which I can get to it easily. My elbows are on the table. I'm supporting it, and just sandy, 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 right? In theory, I suppose that you could flip that sandpaper disc over and do it like this, but you can't really, I can't see what I'm sanding as well, right?
Yeah. I'm sure it's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, there's everyone's human machinery is different. You're gonna find what feels comfortable for you. This allows me to see what I'm sanding as I'm sanding it. I'm not doing a lot of pressure. I'm putting just a little bend in it and just kind of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can see that seam sort of disappears, right? And once we polish it up, it'll be gone even more. Now, I didn't have it lined up totally perfect, so there's just a very minuscule notch here at the top and the bottom. We get some 220 grit. We just sand it for a while. As I'm doing this, I want to turn it around a little here and turn it around a little there. Just so I'm not pushing on one side, because if you just keep it one way and push, 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 your thumb's pushing harder than you're pulling it back, it'll slowly start to get a little... Anyway, it just takes some time. Make your component perfect. That's not perfect, but life's too short. We got places to be. I'm gonna form it back to my stone. Now it doesn't quite fit the stone. Get a steel block here. What I'll do is, I'll let everyone see, is I just push it sideways against the stone and start rolling it around. And this is gonna reform that bezel that I kind of manipulated and squeezed to get those two ends flush. And this helps me get it back to the shape of the stone. Gives me nice, smooth lines, right? Let's take a look. It's pretty good. Give it a little squeeze here. Sometimes I'm gonna use the edge of my bench. Just give it a little squeeze, kind of roll it. And we're doing this, we want this bezel to look really smooth and deliberate. Any curves or lines don't have weird little bends or kinks in them. Because once that's set to a backplate, that's the shape it is. That's what it looks like. So I want it to look as deliberate as possible. Now, how tight should my bezel be? I want to be able to just drop my stone in from the top, and it should just drop down. And I lift that bezel right there on the dents. Drops down, kinda lifts up. If it doesn't just drop down and you got to kind of click it down into place, it's only going to get worse once it's set to a back plate, right? So don't mess around. Here's a little piece of twist wire. I'm going to throw a twist wire embellishment around this. Same deal where that seam is. Now this stuff is a lot thicker and heavier and more difficult to manipulate, so I made sure to anneal it ahead of time. It's really hard to do with just your fingers, so maybe you use some tool edges. Really get in there, fidget with it. Make sure that it follows that line really well. Here's the trick. I can mark that with a line and cut it, but it's going to be real difficult. So what I'm going to do is, it's in the shape that it needs to be. Take it over here to my bench pin. This requires some dexterity. If you cut them both at the same time, they should be at the same angle and give you not. It's always a pain. The real killers cut their twist wire at an angle and then file the two ends so that it goes. I'm not that good, but I think this is going to look all right. We're going to go back over here. This time I'm going to put solder down on the table, rest the join right on top, because I like to overcomplicate things. Again, I used hard solder because this is what I would call a top level join. It's another component that'll be added later. Come on, guy. Sure hope that took. Back over here. Now I should pickle this before I continue, but you know, life's too short. Fit that guy over the bezel. Come over here to the edge of my bench, start giving it a squish. Squish it one way, squish it the other. Got to make sure it's flat. It's not. You don't hammer it too much because that also work hardens it. Makes it so that it's not as easy to manipulate later. I do it while it's in the stone because the stone will keep the shape of the bezel and the embellishment. It's all right. Flat bezel, flat embellishment, flat stone. I feel like it's a little big. Just fiddling with it till it looks just right. When's it look just right? When you're sick of fiddling with it. Okay, bezel, embellishment. Next it goes to a back plate. I might want to add more to it, so I think I'm going to take a break here. Does anyone have any questions? No? I'm going to break. I'm going to let you guys work for the rest of class. I would like you to start working on your bezels and your embellishments because we're into the meat of it. Get to work.